All right, so what does an over-adrenalized dog look like? Whiny, anxious, pacing, jumping up, being reactive. Those are kind of a few of the behaviors that I would say is an over-adrenalized dog. Can't settle, barking in their crate. So, what creates an over-adrenalized dog? These are things that people do that unknowingly they don't know that is in fact what they're doing is adrenalizing their dog. Greeting your dog when you come home. If you've been gone, for part of the day and you come home and your dog's at the door and it's excited, and you greet the dog equally that way, then you are a source of over-adrenalizing the dog at that time. And that goes with like affection as well. So if a dog is overly excited and you're giving it affection at the same time, then you're driving that adrenaline in the wrong direction. Play is another thing that can over-adrenalize. I go over this a lot with people throwing the ball rapidly over and over and over for their dog. That's always another kind of activity that can over-adrenalize the dog. Feeding time, that could be another time where the dog gets over-adrenalized. Like my dogs are a little excited around feeding time, but if I just tell them to go to place or I send them to their crates, they go to it and they calm down. So those are some things activities that you're doing with your dogs on a daily basis, and that if you don't, haven't made that connection, then you're actually driving that adrenaline, in the wrong direction. So what are some of the things that we do to get a hold of that adrenaline and down-regulate it is place work is a really good activity to teach your dog, especially when they're overly excited. But you want to teach them place kind of in the most quiet area that you can to get them to understand. They go on there and they relax. And then once you start creating this emotional component where, I call it a contrast of feeling. Now the dog's excited here, we send it to the place and the dog calms down. So we're kind of wanting to ping pong the dog back and forth. Once you have a place established with your dog, then you want to kind of set these triggers up where, you're talking to your dog excited and it breaks the place and you send it back and you wait until it calms down. You go in and give it affection. It gets the dog excited, it breaks the place, you send it back and you wait until it deaccelerates, and then you go back and you do the trigger again. The more you repeat this, and you're not punishing the dog when it breaks the place, you're just guiding it back on, whether you have it back tied or not. I would back tie it if I'm starting these things out initially, just so the dog can only make a small mistake, right? And so you're trying to get that dog to understand what over-adrenalize is and then what calm is. So place work is a really good activity to do for a number of reasons, but that's one way to kind of get control of that adrenaline. Long line work is really good. However, if your dog's really adrenalized out in the field, sometimes a lot of let's goes meaning direction changes. That can kind of accelerate the dog. Some dogs, it can accelerate them because you're switching from this palette of sight and scent to right now we're going to show you this one. And so the dog can kind of just keep ramping up every time you turn it. So in those cases, I would do a couple let's goes and a recall, put the dog into a sit, just let it settle. And then once it's calm and it's settled, then you can go back out to your let's go. And to that point, when it comes to affection, then if that dog, let's say I recall that dog in, or like I was saying on place, and there's plenty of videos where I'm showing that I like to do to create that calmness as I pet the dogs initially in the chest. Some dogs that are really amped, I'll just put my hand there and put pressure and just hold it there and let them just kind of feel that pressure, and that sometimes will start to settle, and then I'll slowly move my hand. But that's something you can do in the long line activity where you recall the dog in, put it in a sit, and just place your hand on the dog's chest and just have it kind of, I say, just steady the dog up. Just get the dog to be static and just be kind of, let it sit there and kind of go, oh, this feels completely different. And then you go right back out into the let's goes, and then a recall, bring it in, settle the dog, get it to settle, put your hand back on. And these little moments where the dog is, you're flipping the dog in and out of those over-adrenalized, that would be, something like I would say your dog's 10% in a high adrenalized state, 90% where they're here calm with me, right? That's the ratio I'm going for until you can kind of see it. It'll start to flip, after a while. But a lot of times in the beginning, you won't see that. You're going to see a dog that comes in, they settle for a little bit, and they go. It's like they're adrenaline junkies. So they'll see them, they'll settle for a little bit, and this is what's key. You have to pay attention to those moments where the dog is actually taking a breath and saying, "Look, he did it for 10 seconds before he broke and started to go out into the field again, or before he broke place again." So you're looking at this incremental learning. Where the dog is giving you 10% calmness before he breaks the place or before he gets excited. And then the next time it's 15%. And so you just be cognizant when you're doing these things, especially with a really over-adrenalized dog, that you are making progress, but a lot of times it's very small chunks. And so, but those are like some of the two things that I do. Crate time is really good for teaching a dog to kind of just settle and be in its space by itself with nobody around and no stimulus. So working a dog, bringing them in, kenneling them, that's always a good activity. Those are like few of my, 3 that I like to do to kind of down-regulate that. And then from there I can start moving forward and challenging the dog in other areas that might adrenalize it. So anyways, so ask yourself next time you engage with your dog, are you over-adrenalizing it? And then make a note and figure out which way you need to go to get control of that. So I hope that helps, and thanks for watching.